April from April's Home, and today I thought I would share with you a pantry tour. I have had requests for a pantry tour for quite some time now, and I have been kind of rearranging things for a really long time. I started out years ago, a few years back actually, having my pantry in a hall closet. I have a really small kitchen, and so there's no pantry in my kitchen and hardly any cupboard space. We used the hall closet for a long time, but it was really hard to rotate because it was deep and sort of more narrow. Well, it was a traditional closet size, like a linen closet size. But it was really hard to keep that organized. It didn't have enough shelves for everything that I need. So now that we are empty nesters, we have a couple of extra rooms here. So I turned one of the spare bedrooms into a pantry room. It has also got a little crafting station in it for when I'm working on my needle felting crafting and things like that. So I've got my fiber arts crafts on one side, and then the rest of the room is a pantry. We have been making a lot of changes here, so our pantry is still sort of being rearranged yet again. A pantry is something that is always shifting to your family's needs, and when you find out you're using something more or something less, you have to make those changes. It's also really important to me to keep things rotated and organized, so that's something I'm doing all the time, working on my pantry. I will share with you in another video what items I keep in my kitchen. I'm going to start going through my kitchen and reorganizing that space by space. So some of the items that I have here in the home won't be in the pantry tour because they're not in the pantry. In my kitchen, I do have a space where I keep some boxed baking mixes and puddings and frostings and things like that, as well as, like, say, our open honey and my husband's open peanut butter, stuff like that. And then I have a shelf where I keep all of my pasta and pasta sauces. So those won't be in my pantry room tour. You will see those later in a kitchen tour. But I know you're curious about our inventory. We probably keep at least 12 to 15 cans of different pasta sauces on hand, and then a nice big selection of pasta. We also have a section in our kitchen with all of our currently open baking goods, but you will see in my pantry that I store a lot of that also in my pantry. My less often used items are in my pantry for baking as well. And another thing before we get started, I just want to point out that this is a large pantry. I have worked again on my pantry for many years. I had a pantry when I was first a homemaker, which was about 28 years ago. So for 28 years, I've been building my pantries, rotating it, keeping things in stock. So I have a very good sized pantry that I've taken a really long time to build up. So I don't want you to think that if you're first starting out that your pantry needs to look like that. It takes a long time to build up pantry stock, especially if you're working on a budget. I will go ahead and link in the description box below my video where I showed you how to get started on your pantry for $100, and then you can ongoingly add to your pantry by adding in things each week when you go grocery shopping. We do have a large family, even though here in the house right now it's just me and my husband and my wonderful dog. We have visitors every single week. I put on a large family dinner with 11 people at least once a week, and we often have people stopping by midweek for meals too. I also have plenty of items in stock that I can share with family, and we regularly make donations to our local food bank and various food drives throughout the year. So I just thought I'd put that out there. I know some people can be really sensitive to that. Again, this pantry took me a really long time to build up, and it is just an ongoing process. Another thing that I'd like to point out is recently this year I've had to make some dietary changes for some health conditions that I'm currently working on. So a lot of the items in my pantry will be changing. I'm doing a lot of reduction in my carbohydrates and grains and things like that. So definitely making some changes there, and eventually that'll be reflected in my pantry. I will still keep some of those things in stock for my husband and my family should they need those, or should I be making a meal that has that. But as the year progresses, I will be kind of working through some of those things or donating some of those things that we're no longer using. So I think that about wraps it up. Now let's go ahead and go take a look at my pantry room. Okay, so we are here in the pantry room. It is a bright yellow color wall. I love this color of yellow, so I thought it would be perfect for my craft room / food room. This side of the room is my pantry room. These cupboards are the bulk of my pantry. The top here is decorated in sort of country and pioneer designs. I've got my little wagon up here, and a little log cabin and a galvanized bell and some baskets. And up in these cubbies are all of my brambly hedge collection. I just feel like they really fit in a pantry room. Little mice. Their stories always have pictures of food storage in them, so I thought that they'd be perfect in here. So that's the top of my pantry room. You can see that. This old-fashioned vintage cow here is from the Sunshine Family doll collection, and I absolutely love it. So that sits up there as well. And in another video, I'll have to show you the other half of this room when I share some of my dollhouse miniatures and crafting on my new channel, Snapdragon Hollow. So I'll let you know though when I post that video. But for now, let's go ahead and get started on the pantry here. We'll go ahead and discuss the bulk grains section here first, before we get into the classic canned food pantry and boxed good pantry over here. So this is my bulk grains section here, as well as some bulk candy, as you can probably see here. We'll go ahead and start in the corner here. I've got some big buckets here. These buckets contain bulk beans, like black beans and pinto beans and rice, and some wheat berries, and I believe sugar. I have a big container of sugar as well, organic cane sugar. And as I need those, I can put them into my smaller containers here. These are also packed for long term in Mylar bags, so I could also leave them and just buy smaller packages to refill my smaller containers of grains here. And another thing I'll have to be doing this year is using up some of the grains. Some of it I'll be feeding my chickens, some of it I'll be sharing with family. Because if you've noticed in my grocery hauls, I'm doing a lot less grains. That's doctor's orders. I need to reduce both my gluten and my sugars. So I'm gonna have to try some different styles of eating this year and really reducing some of those carbs and gluten and sugar items. So we'll work through that and get things switched around, and I'll have to do an updated pantry tour perhaps at the end of the year. So up here at the top, we've got some dehydrated mashed potatoes from Azure. In the back corner, we've got some powdered milk. And then my favorite dried puffed carrots and vegetable soup blend. And then these here are little dried asparagus from that big batch of asparagus I got at the farmer's market. And we've already eaten through it or grilled it when it was fresh. But I did dry an entire dehydrator full, and this is all it turned into, but I'm excited to turn this into a cream of asparagus soup. So that's a project still on my list to do, but yeah, that's my own little dried asparagus, which I'm pretty pleased with. And then we have some chopped dates here, working through that quite a bit. And then some currants here. This is just a bag of wheat berries. I just liked the burlap bag there. That's from Palouse brand. Then this tote here has seasoning packets and things like that. I've got 2 big bins of cornmeal, and some of this I'll be able to eat if I make it like polenta and don't add in a bunch of flour, which I do actually like. And I'm sure some of this will have to be cooked up for the chickens because I am, again, on that lower carb diet now. And then we've got my split peas, which I use through quite a bit. Same with the lentils. This is for mixed bean soup. And then we've got our black beans and our pinto beans. These beans are our most used beans. That's why they're in the bigger containers. And we've also got my pretty botanical fern picture up there, which I just love. You can see also, sometimes I don't have a spare open container, so the Azure bags go up there until I'm ready for them. We've got a little print up there, a little landscape print. I liked the sort of grains here on the bottom. I thought that fit in with my grain storage. And then here I've got white beans, the small navy beans, organic kidney beans. These are whole peas, and these are oat groats. This is probably something I'll end up cooking up for the chickens. I just don't see us using this many more, and I'll probably find something new to go in that. But I did want to experiment with those a little bit. This is my Celtic sea salt, definitely love that. We love popcorn around here. I have all sorts of popcorn. Rainbow popcorn is one of our favorites. We love dried apples. This one is empty here. I really wanted to make hardtack and fill it with hardtack, old-fashioned hardtack, just because I'm really interested in Pioneer history. So I'm either going to save it for that, but I also just bought a bunch of cocoa nibs, a 5-pound bag of cocoa nibs, which I also need a container for. So we'll have to see where that one ends up. Down here is our sweets shelf with my delicious Azure Standard chocolate chips here and mini chocolate chips. We love those. And then this candy here reminds me of my childhood. I lived right next to a little convenience store as a kid, and we would get a little bit of coin money to go buy treats. And when I was a kid, these were 3 cents a bag, and those were 3 cents a bag, and I think these might have been a nickel. So I just like to keep that there. It reminds me of the old-fashioned candy shop when I was a kid. So yeah, I just love that. And my grandson has permission every Sunday to come in and choose one of these. So that's his special treat every Sunday, and he really looks forward to that. And they're nice small packages, so it's not too bad. And then down here we have smaller containers with lots of odds and ends here. We've got popcorn and maple sugar and steel cut oats, some of our dried fruits like cranberry and blueberry, some dehydrated items like peas. We've got our white chocolate chips here, both small and mini, and some garbanzo beans, tomato powder, more vegetable soup mix. Looks like some golden raisins, a little thing of wheat berries there, and both of the other ones in the back there, it's all different popcorns. I've got some black popcorn and this red popcorn, and I think some Amish popcorn, which we really love. That's our favorite. And then down here on the bottom, we have some of our less traditional flours like spelt and einkorn and oat flour, and we've got some organic cane sugar. Again, I'll probably be swapping out some of these flours for something else since I'm not using flour as much, although some of them will probably work in just fine. Got some masa for making corn tortillas and dates there. Got our succulent sugar there too, just an alternative sweetener. And then we've got M&Ms because M&Ms are delicious. And again, sometimes when we don't want a full candy for the grandkids, they can have an M&M or two. All the parents are really good about keeping their children really low on sugar, so it's a really special treat to come to grandma's and get an M&M or a little bit of candy, sometimes like that. So, and also if I want a couple little pieces of M&Ms, there they are. And then lastly, in the grain area here, you can see this rolling bin here. It's where I keep extra bags of flours or extra grain bags from Azure Standard or the store that I'm not quite ready to fill in yet. So I have that, and it's nice and sealed. Back in this corner here, we've got our oats. Right now they're not in buckets because we go through them pretty quickly. We used to go through them quicker. We're not going through them as fast now, so we'll have to work these down and share them with the family as well. So those are the oats. And then I keep little baskets in here just in case I have extra sweet potatoes or need to carry some ingredients to the kitchen. And this is the little old-fashioned labeler I use. I just like the style of that old-fashioned labeler. So there's my labeler in case I need to relabel something. And also just a side note, yes, I do use a lot of plastic. Of course, I would prefer glass just for the healthfulness of glass versus plastic. But we live in an area that could experience earthquakes, so I don't want to deal with glass falling all over in the room if we should have an earthquake here. And eventually what I'd like to do is get some sort of a bar or a bungee cord or something, but something that looks nice. My husband is really handy with things like that, and he has a few really good ideas. So he's working on coming up with some creative ideas to keep things from falling off shelves in the event of an earthquake. And now on to my cupboards here. This is where I keep my canned foods here. This was a solution. We've had other shelves in the past, but they didn't really hold up very well to canned goods. These are borderline. They're not super strong, but they have been strong enough so far. And I really wanted the canned food storage to have doors to prevent a little bit of the visual clutter. We have all this here, but since this also acts as my craft room, I didn't want to have it be quite so full of cans. So I was really happy to find these. These are, I believe, a Solder brand, and I just got them at the Solder website. And I'll show you the inside of this one here. So this is our first one. You can see just briefly how they're broken up. They've got little cubbies, and each cubby is assigned something. This top one here is my soup shelf. So I've got both boxed soup mixes as well as canned soup. Keep them in order. There's like cream soup, tomato soup, etc. All the different soups that we use. Down here, this is our shelf for ready-made meals. So this is about all I keep of this stuff. We don't super love it, but when we've had power outages in the past, it's really nice to be able to come and grab a prepared soup and get that going. Or if one of us is sick and we just need something quick, or if we just feel like it, we can have one of these with lunch. So that is our like canned, we've got some like Chef Boyardee in there and some chunky soups, and looks like a little bit of country gravy and tamales, things like that. And this next shelf here is for boxed prepared foods, which again, we're not using very many of, but we do use our gratin potatoes at least once a month. Stovetop stuffing, some pastaroni and rice-a-roni, and these little containers of macaroni and cheese. That way too, we can whip up some quick macaroni and cheese if the grandkids want them. Grandkids do love macaroni and cheese. And then we have our meat shelves here. We've got some canned chicken, which we have a really good supply of. I just got through checking all of our Vienna sausages, which we have cans down there and cans here, because that was the latest recall. Luckily, only one of my cans was in the recall, so all the rest were purchased before that, and we got really lucky with that. And then we've got our tuna, and you can see we've got a couple stacks of tuna, but we do go through it pretty fast. Same with the salmon, so that's an area that I probably need to build up just a little bit more once I use those down. We've got some corned beef and roast beef and dried beef for making cream chip beef. So it's chicken and turkey, tuna and salmon or fish. There's also some sardines way in the back for my husband. He loves those. This is the beef area, and this is the pork area with our Spam, Vienna sausages, and some canned ham. So that is that cabinet. This section of our pantry is more of a working pantry. This is probably between 3 and 6 months. Some of these meats will obviously last us 6 months or even a little bit longer. We do regularly cook for 11 people. So sometimes we go through these items in a really quick pace. Of course, when you're cooking for 11, that's a lot of food. But then the other part of the time, it's just me and my husband. So kind of varies as to how long each shelf lasts. This we replace quite frequently. For example, it has a shorter pull date and the canned meats last quite a bit longer. And then moving on to the next cupboard here, we have our vegetable cupboard. The top shelf is all of our tomato products, diced tomatoes, tomato sauce, tomato paste, Rotel, that sort of thing. Then over here, we've got some refried beans and jalapenos and chilies and olives and things like that. I've also separated out the cream corn up here so it doesn't get mixed in with our regular corn. This shelf is a mishmash of really various vegetables there. We've got our mushrooms and spinach and sweet potatoes and things like that, as well as a row of evaporated milk for cooking. One of our more used shelves that we have to fill and buy all the time is our corn and green beans. My whole family really does enjoy green beans, and my husband really loves corn. And then we've got just more of our vegetables here. I've got broccoli and potatoes and peas and carrots and mixed vegetables on that shelf. And you'll recall these two new little kinds of veggies I bought a couple of grocery hauls back for my grandkids to try out, which they actually did try out the peas and really liked them. And the bottom shelf is our beans. We've got chili, and we've got black beans and mixed beans and kidney beans and all the beans that we use for various recipes. So that is our veggie and bean cabinet there. My goal is always to keep this at a pretty good amount. We love our veggies. We eat them all the time. So this is one of my favorite cupboards here. And then this is the third and last one. This top shelf is fruit. We've got a lot of canned fruit here, oranges, pears, peaches, and mixed fruits. And we've got the individual cups as well as cans. Of course, the grandkids really love their fruit cups, so we like to keep those in stock. This shelf here has little individual apple sauces, lots of pineapples because we use a lot of pineapple around here, and some craisins. And this one here has some cranberry sauce, and you can see all of my pie filling in the back. Not very many cans there, but definitely plenty. And then we bought a case of snack pack pudding as well as a tapioca pudding. Just to have here for quick desserts and things like that. Then the bottom here is something I'm working on swapping out. Again, we're not eating as many carbs right now, so we haven't been going through this section very frequently. We still need crackers on hand, but I'm going to probably be swapping out these cupboards for something else. I'm not quite sure yet, but we've got some Jiffy mix here and pancake mixes. Down on the bottom, some raisins and some overflow fruit. That's some microwave popcorn, things like that. So those 4 shelves I'll probably be repurposing at some point, but this is mostly my fruit and pie filling cabinet. So those are my canned food cupboards, and now we have a few items left over on the other side of the room here. This little section here is a little messy looking. We're working on that. This is our sort of snack station. My husband really loves to have some chips every night. Just a little bit, a little bowl of chips or Smart Food popcorn. Sometimes we like to have Fritos on hand for lunches to have with cottage cheese or chili or something like that. Bean dip, that's also something we like there. And these are all of my Harvest Snap Peas and my Moon Cheese, which I love to snack on. I've got a little inventory book here, also where I can keep inventory of the whole pantry. So that's our chip bag, and we're always trying to work that down because I don't like it to be quite so mounding. I would prefer it was quite a bit lower than that, but that's our chip basket. And we've got some Chex Mix for company and a Jiffy Pop popcorn for summer fun. Here are a couple more buckets of wheat berries that I'm wanting to grind up and turn into my own bread. That's been a goal of mine. And then this here has some leftover candy in it. Things that we like to keep out of sight from the grandkids so they don't get into too many candies, but things like leftovers from the holiday. Down in this bottom section, this is just an old cabinet that I had years ago. This is where I keep cookies and breakfast cereals. I'll go ahead and open the door. So we've got crackers in here, like graham crackers and crackers that I serve with cheese and crackers, a few different kinds of cookies and snacks, and again, all of our breakfast cereal and yeah, just various snacks and things. We're kind of working this down again. This is not a category we're eating as often, and we'll probably be swapping this out for some healthier choices coming up. And this little basket here is full of a couple little packaged snacks that my grandchildren can reach if they want to come in and get some little crackers like Goldfish or Paw Patrol crackers, things like that. So we just set that there so they could find something easier. They really love to be able to come in here and find their own snack. Above the curtains, I also have these really pretty old-fashioned map prints. Just thought I'd share those with you. I love the decorations I've put up in here. They're just my personal fun little decorations to have out in the pantry room. Here on this side we have the closet that was in this room. This room originally belonged to my daughter, and then when she moved out I turned this. Originally it was supposed to be a craft room, and then I decided to make it a pantry and craft room. And I had this sign years ago that I just loved. I found it in Michael's years ago, and when I made this room into a pantry I thought it needed this sign up here above the closet. The general store, I think everybody gets a kick out of that in the family, that I have my own little general store here. They know I love general stores and old-fashioned pantries and things like that. So this sign was absolutely perfect for that. So then coming into the closets where I store some of our condiments and things like that. So this shelf here, we've got pickles and sauerkraut and salsa and olives and more salsa, lots of different varieties, and some hot sauces. Down here, more condiments like our A1 and HP sauce and cocktail sauce, lots of ketchup there. I don't know that we'll get through that. I keep telling the kids they can come shop in here for their ketchup. I only have one thing of barbecue sauce left though, so we'll definitely need to stock up on that. We have quite a few different varieties of mustard. I think only 1 or 2 of those are actually yellow mustard. Let me put the light in here a little bit. There we go. I don't store a lot of mayonnaise or salad dressing. It goes bad really fast. So I usually only keep 2 or 3 containers in stock. We go through it quite a bit for salads though in the summer. We've got our horseradish there, some balsamic vinegar, little peppers there, jarred peppers. We just have some random items here. Our bacon and nacho sauce in the back, some salad dressing, things like that. And then down here, this is my tea stash. I've got my apple tea. And this is my tea case with all my different varieties and my favorite Irish breakfast tea. So I just come in here and refill my tea canister out in the kitchen. Anytime it runs low, I just come here and get that. These are my favorite Trader Joe's sweet treat, the dark chocolate orange sticks. So I always like to keep those on hand. I've got some Biscoff and soy nut butter there. We've got some maraschino cherries and ice cream syrups and things like that, and a very large jam section. When I cleaned this out recently, I realized that I didn't need any more jam for quite some time. This is definitely more than a year's worth of jam for us. We used to eat jam a lot more. We don't as much now. Then I've got some mincemeat and lemon curd there just for some specialty baking. My husband built these shelves for me, and I really love how sturdy they are. He has also purchased a piece of wood for the edges of these. He's going to go ahead and make a lip for all of these shelves for me, so that if there's an earthquake or for whatever reason, it'll prevent anything from falling off these shelves. So that's something that we're kind of working on when he has time. I'm sure he'll build me a really nice lip for that. Again, he really loves building projects and things like this, and he does a really great job. Down here on the bottom shelves, I do have some longer term storage with my Thrive Life items that I like to buy to have on hand. Things like my freeze-dried grapes. I just love those as a snack. I think that they're absolutely wonderful. So we have some of the Thrive Life down there on the bottom, and then down on the very bottom, I do have some of the emergency food buckets that I got a couple of years back, just to be prepared for like earthquakes and evacuations and that sort of thing. Otherwise though, this isn't really a long-term pantry. I would love to get this up to a longer term pantry, but right now it's just really a working pantry. We rotate through all of these ingredients at a regular pace, and that's always how I've done it. Just kept a pantry that is a working pantry, rotating, purchasing the things that we eat, and keeping those in stock because that's what we're going to use up. And then on the other side here, I've got some chicken broth and beef broth and vegetable broth, some of my Sunday caramel syrup. I put this over here because it's right above the coffee, and this Sunday syrup is for my coffee. I've got quite a bit of syrup and some Caro syrup there and molasses. Again, we're not going through the syrup, so I've been telling the kids, if you need syrup, just come here and grab a bottle. Then we've got some baking items here, some Crisco and pan spray, and some of our oils. I don't keep a ton of oil on stock because it goes bad rather quickly, so I just buy that when I need it and maybe have a couple on hand. We've got some apple cider vinegar and date syrup, and looks like some Better Than Bouillon there, and some of these Idaho hash brown potatoes. We keep a few of those on hand for breakfast. So this is kind of like our breakfast and syrup area. And then we have our beef broths there. Of course, I've been making a lot of my own and freezing them, but I still like to have these on hand. Then we get our coffee from Black Rifle, and our favorite blend is Blackbeard's Delight. So we just have that on order. Got a random Seattle's Best here too, and some instant coffee. My grandma's tip for making a really good chocolate frosting was to add a little bit of instant coffee reconstituted in a little bit of water, and it just makes that chocolate frosting wonderful. Here we have some hot cocoa and Ovaltine and coffee filters. We have a few K-cups there. We took those with when we went to the cabin because the only kind of coffee maker they had there was a Keurig. So we couldn't bring our regular coffee, so we picked up those and figured we'd keep those for a little while just in case we go to another place where we need that. And then we've got some more baking items here, some vanilla and baking soda and baking powder and cornstarch. We've got a little bit of honey and salt and some buttermilk powder, cocoa, and then there's some extra iced tea all ready to go for summer. And then down below here, I've got some juices. I love to keep juices in stock, as well as some lemon juice there for recipes, and the bigger apple sauces that wouldn't fit over in the fruit cupboard. Then down here, we've got our gallon jugs of vinegars and a molasses there, and a couple more teas. I love my tea in the summer. Although now that I'm cutting back on sugar, I suppose I'll have to cut back on those as well. But I'm sure there will be a few days where I can have some delicious iced tea. So that is that cupboard there. And then lastly, this is on the way back out the door here. This is kind of a dark little corner. I'll show you that in a second. This is where I keep all of my Faber Arts supplies, all of my wool, and embroidery floss. So I've got those all, you know, separated out by color. So this is kind of where the craft room starts. But on top here, I have this cute little galvanized bin from Hobby Lobby, and I keep some little treats for the grandkids, our little Annie's crackers and Paw Patrol crackers and Trader Joe's chocolate chip cookies and raisins and applesauce pouches. Got some granola bars back there for the adults and some goldfish and things like that, some fruit snacks. So yeah, we always have this here. That way everyone knows where to go to grab a snack for the little ones. And then back here, this is behind the door. I had to find a spot for this pretty picture. I also really liked that. And my little sign that says pantry, and this pretty little wall hanging here. This is where I keep my aprons. So every time I need an apron when I'm cooking, I come in here and grab the one I want. I have Christmas ones and everyday ones. I try to match it to what I'm wearing. I just like to wear aprons when I'm cooking, so it's nice to have a selection. I've got a few extra Mylar bags here just in case I need to swap out a bucket and pack up something new. And then on the back of the door, I've put this little rack here. I'll go ahead and link this from Amazon. This is where I keep my overflow spices that I can use to fill my spice drawer. I've got a few juice boxes there, some freeze-dried fruit that we love to snack on. There's some more spices and salts and things like that. Some random things like these Spätzle noodles that I need to use up, and then more of our bulk spices. So this was the perfect spot for that, to keep that kind of contained, and it fits perfectly behind the door. So that is my pantry room tour. I hope you all enjoyed taking a look at this. This has been a video that's been requested for quite some time, and since a pantry is just always a work in progress, I've always been, you know, in the middle of, say, rearranging it or rotating it. I definitely rotate all of my stock. As you know, if you watch my grocery hauls, I label all of my cans. You can see they're all labeled with dates. That way we can keep watch on anything that's about to expire, like we know that this tomato soup has to be used by June, things like that. So we keep watch on that. It's a work in progress all the time. And again, I've been keeping a pantry for many, many years, probably 27, 28 years, something like that. And that's a really long time to build up a supply. Most of the time, it's just a slow accumulation of what you need. You can start out with some basics. I do have a video to get your pantry started for $100. I would suggest starting there if you don't have a pantry yet and working your way up nice and slowly. That way you can make sure you're rotating your food and not getting overwhelmed all at once to just go out and buy all of this at once. It's better to accumulate it over time, and I would highly suggest it. It really saves money on the budget to have things set aside and ready to go. In the past, during different recessions or job loss situations or anything like that, we've always had food on hand to be able to kind of lighten up the budget load for those times when we need to. So having a pantry is definitely something I really love to have. So I hope you enjoyed taking a look at my pantry room. So that was our pantry tour. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at our pantry, how I have everything organized, and see some of the things that I keep in stock, and I hope it inspires you to keep a pantry as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Goodbye.